Every other Friday, your paycheck lands, and for a brief moment, everything feels under control. Then rent, car payments, and credit card bills drain your account. Just days later, you're left wondering where all your money went. Meanwhile, someone earning about the same salary is quietly building wealth. Not because they're a genius, inherited money, or found some magical investment strategy. They simply make a handful of ordinary financial decisions that most people overlook. The gap between financially successful people and everyone else isn't created by flashy moves. It's built through 6 simple habits. One of them revolves around reaching a surprisingly attainable financial milestone that quietly puts you ahead of most people. I'm Ned, and I've spent years studying why some people steadily build wealth while others feel stuck no matter how hard they work. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the 6 principles that separate the small group of people who consistently move ahead from the majority who never seem to gain traction. First, let's clear up a common misconception. When people hear ahead of 97% of the population, they often picture multimillionaires. While the top few percent of American households are worth millions of dollars, that's not the benchmark that matters. The real opportunity lies in the enormous gap between people who do nothing with their money and those who consistently follow the basics. The median American household has a net worth of about $215,000. But much of that comes from home equity and older households that have had decades to accumulate assets. Among people under 40, many have little savings, few investments, and sometimes more debt than assets. That's why the goal isn't becoming rich overnight. It's becoming the person who regularly saves, invests in low-cost index funds, and avoids the financial mistakes that hold so many people back. Do those consistently, and over time, you'll pull far ahead of the average person. Take Axel, a 32-year-old with a decent job who's doing fine on paper. Yet every time he scrolls through social media, he feels like everyone else has figured out something he hasn't. His 401k enrollment email has sat unread for years, while his feed fills with new homes, dream vacations, and seemingly perfect lives. He can't shake the feeling that everyone else knows a secret he doesn't. Keep Axel in the back of your mind. We'll come back to his story later, and the outcome probably isn't what you'd expect. Before we get into the 6 decisions that change everything, there's something you need to understand. Most people dramatically overestimate how hard it is to get ahead financially. Once you see where the real benchmark sits, building wealth starts looking less like an impossible climb and more like an opportunity most people ignore. Remember that surprisingly attainable milestone I mentioned? If you have just a few $1,000s in a dedicated emergency fund, you've already accomplished something millions of Americans haven't. No complex investments, no financial hacks, just cash set aside for unexpected expenses. Yet many households couldn't cover a $500 emergency without borrowing. Increase that to $1,000 and even fewer have enough savings. A routine car repair, emergency vet bill, or medical expense quickly becomes credit card debt. The picture doesn't improve much with retirement. Many Americans reach their 60s with savings far below what's needed to stop working comfortably. And contrary to popular belief, this usually isn't an income problem. It's a behavior problem. Many people earn decent salaries, but their money disappears into debt payments, lifestyle spending, and monthly bills before any of it can be invested. That's not a lack of income, it's a cash flow problem, and unlike your salary, it's often something you can fix. This isn't about judging people who struggle financially. Most are hardworking people who were simply never taught how money really works. Nobody explained investing, compound growth, or the habits that build wealth over decades. Instead, they entered a world designed to encourage spending without ever being given the rules of the game. So if that sounds familiar, don't mistake it for personal failure. But it raises an important question. If the bar is really this low, why do so many people, including those earning 6 figures, still live paycheck to paycheck? Because one of the biggest myths in personal finance is also one of the most dangerous. A high income is not the same thing as wealth. Let me repeat this because it's where so many people get personal finance wrong. A high income is not the same thing as wealth. To see why, meet Julian. On paper, Julian is successful. He earns about twice what Axel does, drives an expensive truck, owns a boat, wears a luxury watch, and lives in a beautiful home. Most people would assume he's financially set, but appearances can be deceiving. Despite his income, Julian is financially fragile. Every paycheck is already spoken for by his mortgage, vehicle payments, subscriptions, and the lifestyle upgrades that came with every raise. His income grew, but so did his expenses. That's lifestyle inflation, one of the biggest wealth destroyers today. The pattern is predictable. You get a raise, then upgrade your apartment, buy a nicer car, take pricier vacations, and spend more without noticing. Months later, you're earning more than ever but don't feel any wealthier. The only difference is that your financial obligations have grown. Many people think they're escaping the rat race. In reality, they're just upgrading the cage. But overspending isn't the only mistake. Even people who save and invest often sabotage themselves through emotion. Researchers have repeatedly found that the average investor earns far less than the investments they own. The reason is simple. They panic when markets fall and chase returns when markets rise. They buy after prices have already climbed, sell after they've already dropped, and repeat the cycle over and over. The investment isn't the problem. The behavior is. Fear and excitement make terrible financial advisors, yet many investors let emotions dictate decisions that should be based on long-term logic. Research has consistently shown that highly active traders underperform investors who simply stay invested. In many cases, doing less produces better results than constantly trying to outsmart the market. Even professional money managers struggle to beat a basic low-cost index fund over long periods. Think about that. Teams of highly paid experts, backed by research and sophisticated tools, often lose to a simple investment strategy that requires almost no effort. More often than not, the boring index fund wins. Take a moment to absorb this because it's one of the most encouraging truths in personal finance. The biggest obstacle to building wealth usually isn't the stock market, intelligence, or a lack of financial knowledge. It's behavior. And unlike the economy or market returns, behavior is something you control. That brings us to the 6 decisions that make all the difference. Meet Jane. She doesn't earn more than Axel, have a better job, or possess some investing secret. They have similar incomes, bills, and opportunities. The difference came down to one Sunday afternoon. Jane spent less than an hour setting up automatic retirement contributions and investment accounts that Axel had been putting off for years. Then she largely forgot about them. 10 years later, the gap between their finances was so large you'd think they started in different circumstances. They didn't. They simply made different decisions. Decision number 1 is the foundation of wealth building. Your savings rate matters more than almost anything else early on. Not your salary, not stock picking, not what the market does this year. What matters is how much of your income you consistently keep. When your portfolio is small, your contributions have a far bigger impact than investment returns. A 10% return on $1,000 earns just $100, while saving an extra $200 a month adds $2,400 in a year. Early on, saving builds wealth. Investment returns accelerate it later. Jane automatically saves and invests 20% of every paycheck before she can spend it. Axel saves whatever is left at the end of the month, which is usually nothing. That word automatically is crucial. If saving 20% isn't realistic today, that's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Start with whatever you can afford, even $25 or $50 a month, and build the habit. Then, whenever your income increases through raises or bonuses, increase your savings before your lifestyle expands. Most people let higher income create higher expenses. You'll let it create higher investments instead. Decision number 2 may be the easiest money you'll ever make. If your employer offers a retirement match, they're essentially offering free money by matching part of your contributions. Yet millions of people never claim it, leaving part of their compensation behind without realizing how valuable it could become over time. Let's stay on the employer match for a moment, because most people underestimate how valuable it is. When your company matches your retirement contributions, you earn an immediate return before your investment has even grown. Put in $1, your employer adds $1, and your contribution instantly doubles. Very few investments can match that kind of guaranteed return, yet billions of dollars in employer matching contributions go unclaimed every year. It's money employees have already earned but never collect. Imagine walking past free cash every payday and choosing not to pick it up. That's exactly what's happening. Axel keeps delaying enrollment because the paperwork feels like something he'll do later. Jane completed it during her first week. Same employer, same benefits. One accepts extra compensation, the other turns it down. Decision number 3 is just as important. Pay off high-interest debt before focusing heavily on investing. Many credit cards charge over 20% interest, while the stock market has historically returned around 10% annually over the long run. If you're paying 22% interest while hoping to earn 10%, the math simply isn't in your favor. Paying off that debt is like earning a guaranteed 22% return, without market risk or uncertainty. Remove the anchor before trying to build speed. So far, these decisions have all been about protecting yourself, building an emergency fund, claiming your employer match, and eliminating expensive debt. Now it's time to shift from defense to growth. Think of the roadmap like this. Build an emergency fund. Claim your full employer match. Eliminate high-interest debt. Then comes decision number 4. Open a Roth IRA. It's one of the most powerful investing accounts available because you invest money that's already been taxed. And if you follow the rules, every dollar of future growth can be withdrawn tax-free in retirement. No tax on the gains, no tax on the dividends, no tax on qualified withdrawals. That's an extraordinary advantage over decades of compounding. Yet many people keep saying they'll open one someday without ever taking action. Jane opens hers. Axel keeps meaning to. And over time, those small decisions become life-changing differences. Now let's move to decision number 5. Once you've fully funded your Roth IRA, increase your contributions to your workplace retirement plan beyond the employer match. At this point, you're no longer just collecting free money. You're accelerating wealth creation by taking advantage of tax-advantaged accounts that allow your investments to compound more efficiently over time. Decision number 6 is simple. After maximizing your retirement accounts, open a regular brokerage account and keep investing in diversified, low-cost index funds. No complicated strategies, just consistent investing. That's the roadmap. Build an emergency fund. Claim your employer match. Pay off high-interest debt. Fund a Roth IRA. Increase retirement contributions. Then invest additional money in a brokerage account. Simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. Most people spend years searching for secret strategies before mastering these basics. Now let's look at why they matter. Imagine you're 25 and invest $200 a month into a low-cost index fund. No stock picking, no market timing, just steady investing. Assuming the market earns around its historical long-term average, that account could grow to roughly $1.2 million by age 65. The remarkable part is that you'd contribute less than $100,000 yourself. The rest comes from compounding, your investments earning returns, and those returns earning returns for decades. Increase that monthly investment to $500, and the same strategy could grow to more than $3 million. Not because you found a secret investment, because you gave compounding enough time to work. That brings us to the most important lesson of all, the cost of waiting. Jane starts investing at 25. Axel waits until 35. Same monthly contribution, same investments, same long-term returns. The only difference is 10 years. Axel can still retire with around $1 million, a great result. But Jane finishes with more than $3 million. The difference isn't that she invested millions more. She simply gave her money an extra decade to compound. Those additional years created millions of dollars in extra wealth. That's why procrastination is so costly. The price isn't obvious today. It's only decades later when you realize how valuable those lost years truly were. And by then, you can't get them back. The longer you postpone investing, the more expensive that decision becomes. Not just a little expensive, potentially life-changing. Every year you wait isn't just one less year of investing. It's a year of lost compounding that you can never recover. Start now may sound like tired financial advice, but the math makes it impossible to ignore. A dollar invested in your 20s is worth far more than a dollar invested later because it has decades to grow. Your earliest investments are often your most valuable. Time is the one advantage you can never replace, and today's dollars have more earning potential than the ones you'll invest years from now. While we're talking about long-term growth, there's another silent wealth killer, investment fees. A difference of 1% may seem insignificant, but over decades it can quietly cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wealth. Even worse, many expensive funds fail to outperform the low-cost index funds, charging only a fraction as much. The solution is simple. Keep fees low. Stay diversified. Let compounding work for you instead of against you. Boring often wins. Before we finish, I want to step back from the numbers for a moment. Maybe you're thinking you've started too late. Maybe you're comparing yourself to people who seem further ahead. Or maybe you're dwelling on financial mistakes you've already made. If so, remember this. You are not behind. You are not incapable of building wealth. Most people were never taught how investing, compound growth, or wealth building actually work. They entered adulthood without the financial playbook, then blame themselves for not knowing the rules. The good news is that building wealth is far more attainable than most people believe. Researchers who studied thousands of millionaires found that most didn't inherit fortunes, win lotteries, or become famous entrepreneurs. They were often engineers, accountants, teachers, and other professionals who consistently followed simple financial habits over many years. That's the real lesson. Wealth usually isn't built through extraordinary talent. It's built through ordinary decisions repeated consistently over time, and that's a game almost anyone can learn to play. Many millionaires are teachers, accountants, engineers, managers, and other ordinary workers. Nothing about their careers suggested they'd become wealthy. What set them apart wasn't exceptional talent or lucky breaks. It was consistency. They invested regularly, contributed to retirement accounts, avoided major financial mistakes, and gave their money time to compound. That's it. No secret strategies, no perfect stock picks, no market timing. Just simple decisions repeated for decades. That's the part most people never hear. Building wealth isn't complicated, it's just boring. There's nothing exciting about automatic investing or steadily funding retirement accounts year after year, which is why those habits rarely go viral. But that's exactly why they work. The closest thing to a financial cheat code is mastering the fundamentals and sticking with them long after the excitement fades. And what that cheat code delivers isn't necessarily luxury. It delivers peace of mind. It's opening your banking app without anxiety, handling an unexpected expense without panic, taking opportunities without wondering if they'll destroy your budget, leaving a job because you want to, not because you have to. Ultimately, money buys options, not status, not impressing strangers, the freedom to make choices on your own terms. That's what being financially ahead really feels like. Before we finish, let's return to Axel and Jane one last time. They started with the same income, the same opportunities, and the same environment. The difference wasn't luck or talent. It was a handful of small decisions made consistently over time. 10 years later, those decisions changed everything. So where did our two characters end up? 10 years later, the difference between Jane and Axel isn't talent, intelligence, or income. It's systems. Jane spent a few hours setting up automatic retirement contributions, investments, and savings. After that, her money kept working in the background without relying on motivation or willpower. That's what most people miss. Successful investors don't depend on discipline every day. They depend on systems that make good decisions happen automatically. That's the real secret. Not brilliance or perfect timing, but automation. Axel took a different path. Not because he didn't care, but because he kept waiting. He planned to start after the next raise, the next promotion, or when life finally settled down. But later became years. The retirement forms stayed unfinished. The investment account never got opened. The credit card balance lingered. Eventually, a decade disappeared. Axel isn't an exception. He's the average person, someone with good intentions that never became consistent action. That's why the boring decisions matter so much. In personal finance, they're usually the ones that change everything. The good news is this story isn't really about Jane or Axel. It's about you. Unlike them, your ending hasn't been written yet. You don't need a huge income or expert investing knowledge. You need a simple plan. Automate part of your income. Claim your employer match. Pay off high-interest debt. Invest consistently in low-cost index funds. Then stay patient and let compounding do the heavy lifting. The strategy isn't complicated. Most people simply never start, or they quit before time has a chance to reward them. So here's my challenge. Before today ends, take one real step. Open the account. Enroll in your retirement plan. Increase your contribution. Set up an automatic transfer. Pay down your first piece of debt. It doesn't have to be a big step. It just has to be the first one. Years from now, you may look back and realize that everything changed because you stopped waiting, built a system, and finally gave compound growth the time it needed to work. And if you'd like to continue that journey with a community focused on building wealth together, you know where to find me. I'll see you in the next one.